At this point in time, we're going to be having yet another presentation, but I'm going to say to you, I would assume that my presenters met our timekeepers and that you have a wonderful relationship with them. Am I correct? Today is a day filled with lots of plenary sessions, and we really want to get through all of those sessions. So I'm going to ask that we're guided by our time slots. Now, Mr. Trace Johnson, he was born in Newark, Ohio. He serves currently as president of the Johnson's Family Office. Trace is a prolific inventor whose innovation includes industrial equipment, sensor technologies, water recycling systems, software, and manufacturing methods that have been implemented in industries worldwide. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to invite you to put your hands together for Mr. Trace Johnson. He'll be looking at the art of developing AI core skills competency from AI readiness to real execution. Mr. Johnson.
Well, thank you, everyone. Let's not all hold their breath while I plug this in. Feel free to breathe, and let's all take our time. How do I plug this in? Oh, you got me? All right. Super. That is incredible. We are truly learning new skills today and becoming more efficient every step of the way, right? No doubt about it. Well, I'll give myself a little bit more of a quick introduction so you know where I'm coming from when I talk about artificial intelligence and provide a perspective of what we've seen in the United States and in the state of Ohio. And I want to echo all of our friends who have come from the United States, just how humbled we are to be able to share our experiences with you all, and what a great past couple of hours it's been. I came in at night on the tour. I was told that I really need to see everything during the day. We're excited for that this afternoon. But it's been so lovely. And I got to say, the more and more I hear the sentiments of your leadership and your folks here, the more and more it feels a lot like home, right? Why does it feel like home? Number one, the resounding point that's being made is there's a human touch that's absolutely critical. Wisdom is a guiding force through whatever is coming next, whether it be artificial intelligence or who knows what comes next. A respect that we don't have all the answers, right? And we're forced with neither being pessimistic nor overly optimistic about what the present situation is and what the future could be. And that, to me, feels a lot like home. I have had the privilege, because I always say this, in the state of Ohio and in the United States, all of us stand on the shoulders of giants. And in Jamaica, you have your own giants whose shoulders you're standing on. People who have set up a framework of policy and places and an environment in which you can excel and have the opportunities to better your lives. And we talk about tools and the great reference to a hammer and the choice of how do we use that hammer, right? And the way that we've articulated AI to folks in the most practical terms is that we're creating a new tool belt, right? A digital tool belt. And if you look at the PC, we've had a tool belt for quite some time. It used to be Microsoft Office suite, right? PowerPoints, it was Word, it was your email, it was whatever those things might be. And the reality is, those tools are just changing, right? Those tools are just changing, and how we utilize those tools is going to make up what our world actually looks like. So in looking at this and going from readiness to execution, and I'll say this, thank God we're human, right? Thank God we're human, because we've been given some special and inalienable gifts. The gift of discretion and the gift of gut. What feels right, right? Determines for us what are problems to us, right? What's worth solving in this world? And there are just plenty of those to go around, right? I think there was this joke, it was rather scientific, and it was, even if you had solved all the world's problems, you'd still be left with the problems of why you were able to solve them, right? We'll never ever run out of them. And this opportunity is to use that new tool belt in order to use our discretion alongside it to make a real impact on our own lives, and by way of impacting our own lives, the society writ large. So I want to talk a little bit about this idea of the human-machine partnership, and this goes along with our demystification effort today. The reality is that we've had technology that ends up resulting in a human-machine partnership since the beginning of time, right? That's how I feel, and we've structured an environment within our own company to accelerate the emergence of a new technology and then ending up in a human-machine partnership. And I'll give you an example. Let's just talk about the automobile. I didn't see a lot of horses and mules running around Jamaica when I got here. You go back to my home, we don't have horses and mules running around either doing the work. And when the automobile and the internal combustion engine came into being, right, it was fundamentally formulated around the issue of, I want to move from point A to point B more comfortably, out of the rain, maybe a little cooler if we had some AC, be nice to listen to the radio, but I can also get there faster, right? And the way I'm sure that many of us got here today, as controversial and upsetting as that was to the stable folks, the people who grew the grain or imported that grain to feed the horses and the mules and all that good stuff, the reality is that at the end of the day today, we all got here in a human-machine partnership. When you put your hands on the wheel and your feet on the pedal and you turn that thing on, you're partnering with a machine. It's been knocked around, right, over the course. You know, things are very chaotic, and then they get bottlenecked. Let's put it that way. That's the way I see these things working. And in fact, and the reason I say this is a theory that works for me, if I look at like the beginning of time, we just look at what I'm doing right now. I'm talking, right? I'm talking, and the reason I'm talking is so I can tell you something. Maybe you believe it, maybe you don't believe it, that's fine. I'm sharing my opinion so that maybe you don't have to waste the time of doing the same mistakes I did, right? Maybe you don't have to waste that time, or maybe there's something that I've learned that you can learn from, which will accelerate your process into doing whatever it is you're going to do. And then, how am I doing this? Over a piece of technology. It's pretty incredible. It literally plays out every single day. And now we have this opportunity to create that same human-machine partnership with artificial intelligence, right? So I'm going to go ahead and play a video that's emblematic of this. It's the story of Ridgewood High School, who followed a very similar path to what we've seen do this. Hocking College has done it. Other high schools in the United States have done it. And Excelsior just did it today, right? Which is providing a space, a lab environment with technology and connectivity and education condensed into one area to aggregate problems that are worth solving. And this same formula that Excelsior has now taken a great leap in doing has been playing out successfully, and I want to show you some of the fruits of that labor. This will be video 1.
The future is the race between the growing power. I really love this quote, and it's from Stephen Hawking. The future is the race between the growing power of technology and the wisdom with which we use it.
My name is Cass Maxwell. I'm the CEO and co-founder of AI Owl. Our ethos is to help society adopt emerging technology faster. The Ridgewood story itself, to me, I grew up in Appalachia, so if I'm going to tell the story of what's happening over there, it's first going to start with a community that's not traditionally known for tech. When you think about Appalachia, you think blue collar, you think hardworking, coal mine, whereas this is, flipping that on its head. We have 7 girls who are in high school infusing tech and solving a real problem on a community level.
Hi, my name is Addison Lammers, and I'm a senior at Ridgewood High School.
Hi, my name is Sophia Book, and I'm a senior at Ridgewood High School.
My name is Kenzie Bice, and I'm a senior at Ridgewood High School.
Reading Reimagined is our idea to help the younger kids get off of reading improvement plans, which over COVID, a lot of students got on reading improvement plans because they fell behind in their reading.
So we came up with the idea after learning about 40% of 4th graders in our school district are reading below grade level. And so that was a problem we saw in our own district, and we decided to make a change and do something about it.
It's important for AI Owl to invest in these communities because traditionally these communities don't have, whether it's the budget, whether it's the teaching force, to be able to bring these cutting edge technologies into these communities. And so as we look at AI, we understand that it's really the great equalizer. We can take someone in a less affluent area, tool them with AI, have them use it as a thought partner, and they can compete with these schools with the bigger budgets.
Hi, my name's Spencer Feig, and I'm the Director of Development at AI Owl. I would say from the first day I came in, I saw how the students, they got along so well. The group of girls in this class, from the moment I stepped in the room, it was like, we're all friends here, and we're striving toward this one common goal, which is to build this new tool in AI.
Reading Reimagined will be very helpful because it breaks down the reading process. On one of the things, we have a phonetic breakdown level. So a child can take a word that they're having trouble with, and they can type it into the box, and it will break down the word and use the phonetic sounds and this thing we call scooping, which breaks down each syllable for the kid to learn.
On the first day, I didn't really know what to expect because my strong suit definitely isn't like math, social media, like all that AI stuff, it's not really my strong suit. So I was really nervous, honestly.
My name is Autumn Joyce, and I'm a senior at Ridgewood High School. My favorite part about this class and the whole process was definitely everyone putting out their ideas and seeing our shared vision take shape.
Hello, I'm Lester McCurdy, a teacher at Ridgewood High School. Connecting the class with the students was just a matter of, I had to learn it to be able to teach it, and I actually literally told the girls on the first day that I'm going to learn this with you in some cases when we dive into the actual AIs and stuff along those lines, that it's going to be a learning process for them and me, and we're going to make mistakes, but we're going to learn from it and grow together.
My name is Kira Schrock, and I'm a senior at Ridgewood High School. The most challenging part is the group we have is a bunch of really strong, I think independent girls, and we all wanted leadership roles. So I think that was the most challenging part, accepting that we all could have our own rules and not be in charge. My favorite part was also being with a bunch of independent, strong girls that wanted to do something, and we took an issue and created it into something that can actually be solved through AI.
Hi, my name is Sophie Paw, and I'm a senior at Ridgewood High School. AI can seem scary, but just like anything can be bad. To be scared of what is unknown about AI, when you do research and you use it for good, it's a really helpful tool to learn anything.
When schools think of AI, I think the first thing we go to is cheating, right? The student is going to use it to cheat, to write the papers. These programs are showing that it's much more than that.
I don't think AI is taking over, because I think if it's used correctly, people will be able to build off their creativity with AI. I think in general it's a tool. I don't think it's a replacement.
The students are interacting with someone or something that is much more powerful and smarter, and so they can use that to fill that skills gap and level themselves up.
I'm very excited about the project they're working on. It's turned into a full platform where a 3rd grade student can go in and create a full story using their vocab list.
What surprised me most was how serious it actually was. On the first day, we made jokes that we were just there to make AI cats.
We've said this whole time that we're kind of like the underdogs. We're 7 female students from a rural area in a small town Ohio. So I feel like that's something that really sets us apart from other candidates.
Previously, before taking the class, I was not a big fan of AI, so taking the class made me realize that it's actually a tool, not a replacement for things in people's lives.
What I would tell my past self about this class is just to do it. Don't be scared and just have fun with it.
Words of advice for the younger generation that might want to take this class is to not hold back. You can do a lot of things with it. You can do so much more than you actually think you can.
I would say to be as involved as you can, because there's so much happening all at once, especially if you're working with a group, and there's so much to learn from it. As soon as you start to not be as involved, you don't really know what's going on.
You know, when you know more, you can do more, right? And so I think this shows that when these students are using AI, and they have someone there beside them that they can, once again, knock down these technical roadblocks or brainstorm with to understand, how do I get to the next horizon? I think it shows educators that we can now step it up. We can demand more out of our students. We can update our curriculum to, help these people fly at a higher level than what they already are. So I think that it's definitely shaking up the educational ecosystem. But I think long term, we're going to see better graduation rates. We're going to see people to be able to achieve more and do more with this new technology.
Thank you. So that was an example of the AI for Youth program. Alongside Intel, we generated this formula. And the thing about the learning pathway, and I put it here, it's amazing where real problem solving can take you, and even more amazing about what's experienced along the way, right? So because they focused in on a real problem, youth literacy, and I'll get to that problem here in a second, but because they focused on that problem, it's a real problem, the goal and the reward system, the flag was planted on top of a hill, and all that effort to problem solve and figure it out is an incredible bit of momentum for people to focus on and eventually get there. And these girls along the way had the opportunity to speak at our White House, at our State House, in educational committees, conferences. So not only did they learn how to solve a problem, how to use AI to get there, but they had never publicly spoken before. Right? And now they're up in front of conferences. They went on the news, all these different things. They've traveled, right? All these different life experiences that genuinely create a system of experiences and a sense of gratitude that betters life, right? It really does. And so that's been their journey. And I want to focus on that quote that I had given in the beginning of the video, and it's by Stephen Hawking, and it is, "The future is a race between the growing power of technology and the wisdom with which we use it." And this hits at the core of the educator's role in all of this. Now, how would a bunch of high school girls understand that a problem that's worth solving is third grade literacy? I can tell you right now, their teacher told them that that was a problem, right? They oriented that group of students, learned about the AI as they needed to along the way, but essentially was the one who planted that flag and then made sure that there were no landmines in the way, right? That they're not leaving their network exposed because they have a little bit of cybersecurity knowledge, that they're not creating something that would be inequitable, right? The teacher has that visionary responsibility and wisdom to guide these students toward a problem worth solving. And when you orient around that and set up an environment for that, the learning extends so far outside of the classroom that it becomes immeasurable. It becomes immeasurable. And so when we look at these problems and we look at this lab, what I've found is that the environment shapes the problems we're exposed to, right? These folks were in a classroom, so the teacher has a problem set in their head, and those problems are the things that they've been focused on through their career. They're educational problems, right? And the interest of that particular person will orient them toward solving which problem they believe they're capable of solving, right? When we follow our interests, we become passionate about them, and in my experience, the most likely way to succeed is to actually care about what you're doing, right? And so interest and environment are two things that it's hard to break away from. It's really difficult to determine what you're interested in. It's an innate human quality, but that's your talent, right? It's closely aligned to your talent. But what labs do, what these environments do, there's so much more than just a row of computers. They set up an environment where things like industry collaboration can happen. And we've seen that happen many, many times over again. So you're not just getting the problem statements from the educational environment, from directly that teacher, but you're setting up an environment where you can also have local companies come in. And they can say, you know what, in my paper mill, we're having this issue with logistics. That's happened. Do you think, students, based on your incredible ability to solve problems, that you might be able to solve this one? And the answer is usually, we'll try, right? And they'll get there. And along the process of trying, these businesses have an unbelievable opportunity for talent identification. If a student solves one of their biggest problems in industry, you think they're going to get hired, right? And that's an opportunity for these folks based on the leadership setting up an environment for this collaboration to take place. So, taking a view of the landscape here and a special, look at this, and again, me hearing and understanding a little bit and knowing how this is just a lot like home, you'll have a lot of opportunities. The funding is there. The assessments have been done. Know where you stand. And the policies that the Senator had talked about earlier are in place. You have a framework to act within. And there is a great energy in order to push this forward, right? Those things I believe we can all agree on. And just like the example, in Ohio, and Cass talked about earlier, we have this mountainous region where people are generally kind of cut off from the rest of society. The highway systems didn't go through there because it's mountainous, which leads to a lot of other particular issues. It's almost like being on an island in a lot of different ways, right? And the population centers are about the same size. This model really, really works and leans in on a lot of the strengths, which is, even though you're on an island, even though Appalachia seems like it's on an island, that makes you really connected. The ability to passionately grow and share information through a system of tightly connected nodes is pervasive. It can permeate very, very quickly and present an opportunity for leadership in that space. That's what we see when we look at the outside looking in, third-party perspective, just sharing. This can really, really work. And again, this is what I'm talking about with these, when we call it like workforce ecosystem, we're talking about the lab environment. Whether or not you have new computers there or not, it's about setting up an environment for collaboration with industry partners, governments. We've had local governments come into their schools and say, hey, look, in a lot of cases, we operate like a business too. We provide water services, and we want to figure out how to bill those more accurately. We have all kinds of different services we offer our community. What can we do in an area that's traditionally more left behind, like government, right? Sometimes it's slower to adopt emerging technologies and things like that, sometimes. Even they're coming into these environments and leaning on this phenomena of wisdom and ability from the educator and the student with a lot of energy and interest and passion in solving and being a part of the world and solving real problems. So I want to talk a little bit about, this framework and pathway that we've set up. Awareness is one thing, right, which we're doing a good job today of sharing where we are and why, right? This is awareness. And that fundamental ethic that you can ascribe to or not, that this is just not that different than the things that have already happened in the past, right? And just like the humans that we are, we like to mythologize. We create heaven and hell, really and truly. We create a vision of the future where all the problems are solved, and we create a vision of the future where everybody's a zombie, right? I mean, we're really good at doing that. And the reality is that our interests should be in line with neither of those things. Just like to live and live well, right? So I think that's where we are, and that's great. We're exploring. We're exploring along the way. That's why we're having this conference. And then we're ascribing that to the workforce, right? How do we ascribe that to the workforce? We say pick real problem sets and figure out all the things you need to do to solve that, which are going to extend far beyond the classroom in the pursuit of actually solving that problem. You're going to go out to talk to people with subject matter expertise. If you want to know the problem that's happening at the paper mill, you're probably going to have to talk to the person who actually does the work manually right now, right? If we want to create an AI system that automates logistics, students are going to have to talk to people who have been in the logistics field for a number of years. It's the merger of wisdom and technology, right? That's workforce readiness to us. Operational execution, making sure that the connectivity and the tools are available, because those things, the tool belt's going to grow, right? You might say Claude, ChatGPT today. By the time it's all over and you get to the end of solving a problem, you're probably going to have to try and fail with 10 other AI theories in order to get there, right? That's just the reality. And you might have to generate your own code and your own software in order to get there, and that's fine, you know? Organizational transformation is just the emergent phenomena of this particular process of planting the flag on the hill, doing whatever it takes to get there, making sure that somebody responsible in the room so that you're not stepping on landmines while you're trudging up the hill. That's important, right? But the rest of it's just a natural phenomena of working together towards a common goal, right? That's organizational transformation. It becomes a part of the culture. It becomes productive and innovative at the same time, right? And the boy I wish theory is this thing that it's an observation of something that, as an inventor, having done it professionally for my entire career, is when I hear that, any wish, right? People are actually telling you the problem that's worth solving. You hear that enough times, boy, I wish third graders could read better. Boy, I wish we could handle logistics better at the paper mill. Boy, I wish, boy, I wish. That's the gold, right? You aggregate that enough, you realize that this is a problem worth solving. In an entrepreneurial spirit, students may realize this is something that people are willing to reward. And through that phenomena, you have the emergence of entrepreneurial behavior, right? You have new industry sectors and small, large, medium businesses that can emerge from setting up this environment well. And I think we all agree this workforce shift is already happening. I think maybe some color that I might be able to add to this, this transformation is that, and Cass said it earlier, like only 1% of the people in the United States are really self-automating at this point, right? You might be getting on GPT and then still copying and pasting that over and then reformatting it and all these different things, right? The reality is that what's laid out in front of us is to take a new view on how we've been working for the past 20 years with laptops. And I can share with you this fundamental shift in perception that can happen to help guide you. So when I'm clicking on a computer, my interpretation is that I'm clicking on a computer. But what we have to realize is that that computer is actually doing that. Like I'm clicking on it, but the computer is doing something too, right? So if we think of things in terms of what the machine is doing, not what we're doing, and we catalog those things, so not what did I do, what did the machine do? When I clicked here, the machine registered a push button on my mouse that was transmitted via Bluetooth into the operating system, which then registered in the operating system that that button was clicked, determined the location of my cursor on the user interface, and then determining, based on where my cursor was on that particular screen, performed an action on what we would call a button, right? If we look at the way that we are interacting with machines that way, this is when we begin to work with the AI to automate so that we don't have to click on that or the 1,000 other series of clicks that we make throughout a day. We can set up a system that does that for us, which then leads back into all the other great things that we were talking about earlier. More time to focus on what really matters. And we've talked about this. It's awareness, application, practice, adaptation, leadership, and reskilling. And the point that I want to make about this, two things. One is that all of this can be done by focusing on solving a problem. 1 through 6. Just happens. You get to the end of the loop, you realize you don't know everything. Boy, I better learn more. Right? By focusing on solving a problem. The other is, I wanted to pose the question about the vision of this. I mean, it's already incontrovertible that a revolution has taken place. But, okay, great. A revolution's taken place. I think that we can start thinking of what we do with that as more of a renaissance, right? And if we think about renaissance and the way that it's traditionally used, what does that mean? It means an explosion of creativity and new phenomena, right? Because every single one of us now has the power through the revolution to interact with a machine just using our words. It's revolutionary. But the emergent phenomena of that individualized capability can now lead to creativity. I think it's getting windy. It actually felt pretty good. So where we make the mistake a lot of times in this is getting too narrowly focused, right? Trying to master the expertise of singular tools instead of taking the thing at which we're trying to get to and then looking at which tools are going to fit into that, right? The issue with focusing on any one given tool is that the capabilities of any one given tool don't necessarily align to your problem statement. Like I can tell you right now, if my problem statement was, boy, I need to write an address or have that help me, I wouldn't choose GPT anymore. I'd choose Claude. That's today, right? Tomorrow, it's very, very different, right? So focusing on singular tools in this shifting environment, it wastes a lot of time, to be honest. It really does. Ignore the workforce structure that already exists, right? The reality is that this overblown notion of how the workforce is just going to transform and the jobs that are there aren't there anymore, therefore I think the conclusion is like, why try, is another great misnomer. The reality is that we have work that needs to be done presently, and AI infusion into the work that exists. Not trying to forecast out and say what's the job market going to be like in 10 years from now. 10 years too far out, right? We have work that needs to be done right now, right? Right now. And there's just so many things that go along with that. People just get overwhelmed when they start thinking about, boy, I'm not going to have a job in 10 years. They start, thinking about their role and not what they need to focus on at the moment. There's a fundamental disconnect that happens with the learning because there's still so much to do right now, right? And so that's what we preach. And I have one more example here that I'll show of just another, and I think kind of wild, say that a little bit, tongue-in-cheek based on the subject matter, but something a little bit wild that, again, students were able to do with a collaboration with Hocking College to fulfill a boy I wish statement. And the boy I wish statement was, I'm a zookeeper. I took a risk on my education by getting it in zoology, right? I mean, a lot of people who get into zoology, maybe they don't find a job. They took a big risk, right? But they did that, and they're in this world where they can now interact with the coolest animals on the planet, but they found themselves not interacting with the coolest animals on the planet. They were doing paperwork instead, So I said, boy, I wish I didn't have to do this paperwork. And the students set out to solve that issue. And we'll play this video.
I'm going to take extra just in case. Come on. Good girl. Come here. The coolest thing ever is when you call an animal this large by their name and they come to you.
My name is Mindy Scott. I am a zookeeper for and elephant care professional at the Columbus Zoo.
All right, this foot.
We do what are called well-being assessments on each and every elephant in our herd.
Good girl.
Everything we observe, whether it's during the day while we're here, those overnight camera watches, everything plays into their well-being. When we fill out these forms, we look at each category and we give them a score, so it's very empirical.
Now we can start talking about the Columbus Zoo project a little bit. So basically, me and Gabby are working really hard on the Primalytics software, which what it does is takes zoo footage and uses AI to analyze it.
My name is Cass Maxwell. I'm the co-founder and CEO of AI Owl. We focus on upskilling the workforce with artificial intelligence. And so our goal is to take all of that into these type of communities like Appalachia, like urban areas, and make sure that it's not just the rich suburbs that get it, but everybody gets it.
A lot of people go to a zoo, they think of no way AI could possibly be used at a zoo.
Hey, lady.
They basically told us that their zookeepers are constantly bouncing around.
Yeah, Johnson is secure.
Trying to watch the animals, fill out all of these charts, and they just can't be everywhere all the time.
Frankie!
And I think that's the beauty of solving these problems with AI. You have to interact with the world in order to solve the problems in it.
This AI technology is going to allow us to be able to collect more data points
and then spit out that data in a very consumable way so the zookeepers can then analyze, be proactive.
I'm going to get some treats ready.
and allow them to do more of what they do best, which is care for the animals.
Good boy. Come here, bud.
The scale of this project is big.
Good.
Not only does it help out the Columbus Zoo, but also helps out all institutions that care for animals around the world.
Hey, bud. Good boy.
So before I wrap up, I'll just, I suppose, double down, triple down, quadruple down on the concept. That is that when there's a problem to solve, and it goes to the region-centric issue of environment, right? Who would have thought AI could be used to solve a problem in a zoo, right? It doesn't necessarily matter what the problem statement is. It's the human ability to apply a new tool into solving it that is the opportunity of our era for innovation, for creativity, to create a renaissance. So, thank you very much.